YouTube. So hello, so I'm doing part 2 of this. I wasn't going to actually. I was just gonna do that as a reaction to this video. As I said, Vin and Sori's videos tend to be quite long, and not that that's a bad thing, but it takes a long time to edit and go through and rewatch and watch and etc, etc. So what was interesting was, first part, yeah, had a bit of a laugh. You know, I took the piss a bit, and because they were talking about their relationship and it all seemed a bit dodgy, and it was, you know, it's quite amusing. But interestingly, almost exactly where I cut off, it takes a change and it gets very serious. And actually, I thought, when I saw, hadn't seen that second part. When I saw the second part, I thought, ah, right, well, I can do another video. And it's amazing how one person's reaction video, or two people's reaction video, can be so different from one part to the next part. So, without further ado, let's react to part 2, reaction to a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. Let's dive right in.
Very, you know, it may happen that she forgives you, but the kind of relationship that you had before you did that act is never ever going to return, ever. And so I just couldn't do that. I said, just leave her before you do that. So you know, like you're never really ever going to be able to get that back again. And so, like, you know, but it's a weird situation, because if that happened, then why did she stay with him? And then, you know, isn't it on her to say it can't function anymore? Whereas he's saying that, like, I see the other thing too, where it's just like, I always get caught in this conundrum, like, because I'm like, if I ever did something like that, I would just leave, like, you know. But then I think to myself, like, well, shouldn't she be able to call that play? Like, what if she wanted to keep working at it? Me, I even if you wanted to, I don't think I'd be able to, you know. Yeah. So I was just saying, like, you know, there's things in the moment. You might get caught in a certain moment, fellas, but you know, you got to think about that. Like, everything that you built with this girl, do you really want to put that up for, you know? And even if she forgives you and you quote unquote get away with, that's a big thing I tell them, like, nobody gets away with anything. You know, when you're a kid, you don't really understand that, because all you're worried about is being grounded and things like that. You don't understand, you know, the metaphysics of how these things work, and how certain lines get crossed in relationships that never can get uncrossed and things like that. So yeah, I was like really kind of like pushing that to them, because I mean, that's a very, very hard thing to come back from. And I think that he's, at this point, he's just like, why are we still together? You know, like, you know, who knows?
Look at this. Okay, so this came out in
1980.
1980. Look right here. The lyrics. Read this. He committed suicide in 1980.
Yikes. Yeah, he killed himself in May, and this came out in when?
June.
Oh, so he didn't even see how this song got received because he was dead by the time they released it. SubhanAllah, that's terrible. I do actually want to just pause it there for a second, because there's a brilliant documentary, and I can't remember the name of it now, but I'll put it up here. And it's very sad because they were about to go on tour in America, their first tour of America, and they were going to very likely be huge. And it was the night before they went on tour to America that he killed himself. Incidentally, one of the things I think that caused him to be so depressed and to commit suicide was that he developed epilepsy. And this was, I mean, obviously it had a huge effect on his life, and it was sort of embarrassing almost, I'd say. He had an epileptic fit on stage at the Hacienda at one point, and I think in his mind that was just the end of his life. You know, he was a cripple, a freak, you know, whatever horrible words you want to think of. Probably already a depressive character. And there's a great little anecdote, an awful anecdote about how, I think it's Peter Hook, I could be wrong, but it's one of the other band members, was having Sunday lunch with his wife, and he answered the phone, and he says, he picked up the phone, and they said, Ian's dead. And he said, what, he's dead? And he says, yeah, he's dead, he's gone, you know. And he went back apparently and sat down and carried on eating his meal because he was just in so much shock. And he ate his meal, and his wife was there, and he didn't say anything. And then his wife said, "Who was that?" And he said, "Oh, Ian's dead." It's just, very poignant, the shock of that. And yeah, anyway, I won't waffle on. Let's continue.
Yeah, he sounded pretty depressed.
Yeah, he did.
Good night. It's tough, man. It's tough stuff. What an ironic name, Joy Division. Yeah, that's tough. So, I mean, yeah, rest in peace to Big Homie.
Yeah.
What a sad, sad song.
Yeah. He didn't look that old either. He looks like a little boy.
Well,
How old was he?
I don't know. What's his name? Curtis? Ian Curtis.
Yep, right there it says he wasn't faithful to his wife while he was on tour.
He died.
And they had a kid too.
He was born in 56. He died in 1980, so he wasn't even 30. It's like 24. And she died in 1980? Oh, no, she was his spouse from 1975 to 1980. Brutal. Brutal, man. That's rough. Yeah, it looks like he was 24.
Oh god. Oh, it's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough stuff. Yeah, it looks like he was never really able to
Recover from that.
Well,
Ugh.
and a lot of times dudes will do stuff like that when they're depressed too. So it's like a chicken or the egg thing. You know, it's the hardest part of this channel, I think, is getting introduced to these brilliant artists who are most of the time tormented, and then finding out that they're dead, either from an OD or self-inflicted or whatever.
Oh god, he looks so depressed in this video. Oh.
Yeah, it's probably the last video I ever shot.
Oh.
It's just sad. It's really sad, bro. And then you wonder, like, you write songs like this, and then you take your own life, and then now your wife gets to hear this song. You know, and it's like,
That's absolutely heartbreaking when when he was talking about she turns the other way. But it's like,
Yeah.
you didn't even give me a space to be able to be angry about what you did.
right.
And now I have to mourn your loss.
Yeah.
It almost makes you want to be more angry, but then you can't be angry because he's dead. It just really puts somebody in a very, very terrible situation.
It's a horrible. Look, as a person who survived it multiple occasions, like, you immediately blame yourself anyway, and you immediately start thinking about ways that you could have you could have done things differently, so that she ends, you know.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Geez.
It's really
That's so sad.
it's a really difficult thing to deal with. But, and of course, with these guys, like, it's not like he put it together. It's not. I don't believe he was like, "Yep, I'm gonna make this song and say this about her, and then I'm gonna off myself, and then she's gonna have to carry it." Like,
Right.
I don't think that that's what happened. I just think that he made the song because he was expressing himself about how he felt, and then, you know, and then he did that because that's how he felt, and the two are not related as far as like how it's going to affect other people. And you know, it's like I had a family member that, you know, did themselves in on the 4th of July, you know, with a gun, and so she was not thinking like, hey, that every 4th of July, he's going to be hearing stuff popping off that sounds like a gunshot, and he's going to be thinking about me. Like, she wasn't thinking like that.
Mm-hmm.
She was thinking about, you know, getting the hell out of the pain that she was in, and
Yep. Yeah, I always think of that because, you know, growing up, you know, the 4th of July was really fun, the fireworks, the excitement, the everything, and I always feel like, I feel like, obviously sad, you know, about her situation and different stuff, but then there's always a part of me that feels like she robbed something from the kids, because the kids don't really experience the 4th of July. Like, it's kind of a hard time.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
I know that even regardless, the 4th of July is not really something that you would be super interested in celebrating. But, like, even just outside of everything, like, just because of what the 4th of July
No,
means.
the 4th of July used to be a pretty cool holiday for us as kids growing up, actually.
Yeah, it was for us too. I know it was for you.
Yeah, there was one stretch where, like, a Batman movie would come out every 4th of July.
Really?
And we would go and we'd watch Batman, then we'd go to McDonald's, and then we'd set off fireworks in the backyard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually a pretty cool experience for us for a couple years. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's not the same anymore, and I don't, you know, the kids don't know, you know, so.
No, we just don't do anything, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can do stuff on 4th of July, like. You know.
But I always feel like that's, like, if I plan something, I feel like you planned a party and, like, you're sad and, like, it just feels like.
Well, I'm not necessarily sad every 4th of July. It's just a, you know, it's, you know that that's when that person that was a big part of your life is no longer there. It doesn't necessarily mean that, like I could have a good 4th of July with the kids and have it go good for them and all that, you know. I just wasn't gonna do the thing last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing last year, I was, you know, there are different reasons for why I wasn't going to do the thing last year, you know, because
Yeah.
that's a separate thing. But yeah, I don't have a problem with, like, creating another. I'm just saying, like, the thought process in these people's head they don't think, and that's the thing about, you know, doing something like that to yourself. Like, you're just thinking about yourself, and I'm not saying that in an accusatory way. I'm just saying that there are other ramifications to what would happen to the people around you that you probably don't think about.
Yep.
And I have no judgment for people in that situation, because depression is a hell of a thing. So, you know, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, the song isn't really about him killing himself, though. The song is about the issues he and his wife had, and I think it's a very honest sort of look at things. And I didn't really see a lot of finger pointing, like he was saying that she turns away from him or whatever.
But he's saying, is my timing that flawed?
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously not the issue. It's not about your timing. It's about, you know. You know what I mean?
Well, again, we don't know where in the timeline that, and just because somebody says it on the side doesn't mean that that's what the song is about. That's just their opinion. That's why I never look at that stuff. But he, you know, like, I'm pretty sure, like, in every relationship, you know what I mean? And so I don't really see a lot of finger pointing or taking a responsibility. It's just, this is kind of, this is what happens in relationships. They die off, you know?
Yeah.
What do you give it?
It's a silent count for me. It's just too connected with the stuff I read on the side.
Yeah, that's why you shouldn't read those things at the side. I mean, to me, it's a, I'm gonna give it a good solid 9. You know, obviously sad about the way he ended his life, but I don't think that this song is about that. I just think it's about what happens in relationships that, you know, that die. So there you go. Love one another, I guess. Vin out.
Sorry, out.
Gone.
So there you go. Very different video, part 2, and it's. I used to work in mental health, and I was depressed for about 18 years, until actually fairly recently, and it was when I stopped being depressed that I started this YouTube channel, because I wanted to do it for about 5 years, but I didn't have the motivation, the confidence, or the energy, or a whole load of other things I didn't have. And frankly, I used to believe that the way I would die would be through suicide, and that's a big thing to admit, but that's what I thought. I don't think that anymore, but it shows you how your mind is completely it's sort of warped. Your entire view of reality is wrong. It's very much like a type of psychosis. It's like having delusions, and the worst thing is if you're depressed, especially for a very long time, you have no idea of knowing how depressed you are, because to you it's normal. So am I very depressed? Am I a bit depressed? I don't know. I wake up every day and feel exactly the same. I don't feel good about anything, but maybe that's sort of how other people feel. It's impossible to quantify. It was only when I stopped being depressed, which was by changing my antidepressants, that I was almost immediately, within a couple of weeks, able to look back and realise how depressed I'd been. And I didn't feel elated when I stopped being depressed. I just felt normal. That was my biggest insight, was, oh, so this is what it's like to be normal, not to feel awful about everything and have no energy. So there you go. I probably should talk about this more on my channel. And if you're having problems, if you are really depressed, just get help, and do consider antidepressants, because they work. It's what worked for me. Counselling didn't really do anything for years. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's not necessarily the answer. You can take tablets. They will possibly stop you being depressed very quickly. So there you go. Very serious one, and don't nobody go nowhere.